Let's get into today's topics. I really don't know how long it's going to take for us to talk about all of them, but welcome to my life. Let's just run with it. The first topic I wanted to get into was brought to me on the Twitters, as I mentioned before, by Mr. Phil Stubley. And he asked about a particular scenario from the Euros. I need to put my glasses on. I cannot see this. And it was one of the goals, one of the unfortunately many goals that was scored by the Netherlands against Spain. On the women's side, a correct free hit was given. And in Phil's assessment, well over playing distance of the foul, the free hit was taken and there was no attempt to stop the ball. Should it have been disallowed? Should the goal have been disallowed for the free hit issue? Thoughts? It actually wasn't the fourth goal, it was the fifth goal. He corrected that. And I do have my response underneath, but I hit it by dragging it down because I'm technologically gifted that way. Right? Don't think so. But I thought it was a good question. So let's have a look at this clip because we can get into a few things about flow and about disadvantage and about when you want to be particular about ball placement and when you do not. So this is the clip here.
Tournament play and warm up tournaments before the Olympics.
Good early ball played forward there. What an opportunity and what a finish again.
It does go up to referral, but not for the question that Phil had there. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And here's a slow-mo. I am going to now mute the video so it doesn't come back, but it's going to loop as per tradition so everybody can take a look and see the whole play again as we're talking. And I'm just seeing the banter. Neil's just giving me a hard time. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So it's a good question. And let's talk through what we see at the particular moment of the foul. Okay. It's a 5-meter infringement on the aerial ball. And there's definitely the Spanish defender who is in front. And I think it's difficult to assess with the camera angle, but it's very possibly the one to the side as well is infringing in the 5 meters because the Dutch attacker is being deemed the initial receiver here. Now, part of that is because the Spanish defender came late, but we're also identifying these days that an initial receiver does not need to be standing in 5 meters of clear space alone. Like a circle drawn out around them on the pitch does not have to exist in order for them to be deemed the initial receiver. If the ball is on a trajectory that clearly shows that they are the initial and safest receiver of that ball, even if there's somebody proximate within 5 meters, but at a different angle behind them, for example, they are still the initial receiver. And we do not blow that for danger and give the ball to that defender who is not in danger. Yes, aerial is not danger. It's a specific rule unto itself, but it's a codification. It's a black and white attempt at a black and white statement on what danger is. So I am going to talk about danger in the aerial context because quite honestly, that's why we're moving away from the very strict interpretations that have been applied in the past. So now that we've identified that part, I'll just scroll it a little bit more so you can see, what happens to ball. There might be a little bit playing it by the Spanish player. And then here comes the free hit right at that moment. So the movement, the actual distance that the ball travels, it's difficult to assess, but it's probably around 4 meters. Okay, in the middle of the park. I'm going to say 4 or 5 meters, something like that. And before we move on, I want to see if anybody else is picking this out in the comments, because they're, aside from Neil's pretending that he's going to leave because I'm not good enough at streaming, I think people are actually applying themselves to the question here. And here we go. Okay, Scott is making a comment on aerials. I think that he's talking about whether any opponent, oh no, this is for the free hit. Whether any opponents can't now tackle even if they could have done so originally. Right. So converting that into English that I can parse, because limited capacity, you want to think about who is disadvantaged, who could be disadvantaged by this play. And I'm getting a low battery warning. So I'm just gonna, why not, right? We're all friends here. My monitors are flicking. You guys are fine. I'll just wait for this to pan out. But you're trying to focus on not just whether the ball has moved a distance. You're looking very specifically for whether that where it's moved has disadvantaged players who were not involved in the original foul. Okay? Who is disadvantaged by that play? I have lost my notes. It's going to be fine. There they are. Get over here. Okay, we're ready. And when you watch this situation going through, we have the one defender who was behind the ball. Maybe it's a 14, maybe it's a 24. They are definitely an infringing defender. I think the second Spanish player who's adjacent and to the side is also. And even though they're not directly involved in the foul, they are within 5 meters of the free hit area and would not be able to engage with or channel with or direct the ball if, regardless of this little movement of it. So the two players who are affected, and particularly the one that was directly behind, is the one who fouled. So to bring the ball back, when really they are the only one who's affected by this free hit placement, I think is an unnecessary interruption to the flow of the game. As it is, as the free hit is taken, she incorrectly, and illegally puts her stick down and could have affected the play there if she had intercepted. So probably lucky for her, it didn't happen. Okay, because maybe that was 5 meters. I don't know, but I have a feeling that would have got hauled up. Okay. The fact that the ball is in motion still, there's no ambiguity here as to whether that free hit is taken from that spot. When we want that indication of a stopping movement, we're not doing it because technically stopping it is important. What that does is it gives us a very clear indicator of where the hit is being taken from so that we can assess 5 meters from there. So it's not important in this context. If the attacker, if Tejada had continued, had put the ball down and was dribbling it, and then took the sweep hit to make the pass, you could say, well, was it from where she started dribbling? Was it midway through the dribble? Was it when it changed direction, or when she actually swept the ball? Was that the spot of the free hit? That's where we get into trouble, and that's when we want a stoppage. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments how y'all feel about that explanation, and if there's some things that you're seeing that you'd like me to address or point out there. So there we go. Yeah, exactly. The Spanish player couldn't have tackled legally anyway, so there wasn't a disadvantage. Rachel, the two defenders would not have been able to appear. Absolutely. Gideon, if Dehota brings it back, she's massively disadvantaged and probably took it from where it would have landed, but for the Spanish player taking it down. That's a really good point, Gideon. That's something I hadn't really noticed. So there you go. Yeah, could have been a green card at that point. It's a little later in the game. I think this is the fifth. This is the fifth goal. This is third quarter. Yeah, I mean, well, with the way that maybe this game was unfolding, a green card, maybe a yellow card. Would you consider yellow card if the jumping defender's stick made contact? It would have stopped a goal. Well, from the central line, it would have been really difficult. If you had the ability, and hell, it's very possible that umpires at this level could read the play and know what was going to happen at that point. But it would have been really hard to say. The ball would have careened off in a different direction. It would have been tough for all of us to see that there was this big wide opening Route 1 down to Matla and that she was going to peg the reception. And, so that would have been a big stretch. So I think it would have been more likely that if you're going up to a yellow card on this, it's because it's later in the game and other interventions had been made already on this topic. So good question, though. I really like that. Michael, I thought there was guidance a while back saying to be more pedantic about stopping the ball for a free hit. Not that I've seen. And, maybe in your regions there were issues about it. But again, we always have to get back to, why do we want the ball stopped? And if the answer is because, then you're a terrible parent. We want the ball stopped so that we know where 5 meters is from that. So that the defenders know, when am I going to be allowed to attempt a tackle or interfere with the play? The attackers need to know as well. So, and for the umpires, in order to penalize it accurately and properly. That's why we're looking for the stop. No other reason. It's certainly not because we want to slow the play down. And looking for a stop just for the sake of fulfilling the word stop has precisely that effect. It slows the game down. Okay, so have a good reason behind why you want that indicator. There you go. Roger, you appreciate the flow of the attacker gain advantage being able to play 5 meters ahead. Okay, so Roger, I appreciate what you're saying there. I totally understand it. The attacker doesn't gain the advantage because she has a different angle to hit at because of where the ball is now placed. She's on the same line. She doesn't avoid, and because of who is around the ball, she's not able to hit around players that should have been able to be there and blocking different spaces off. Those two things don't happen, so she doesn't gain an advantage from that. What she properly gains an advantage from is not having to go to the ball, bring it back, and play it again. It's a big, but it's a subtle difference between those two things. And I hope that makes sense. Okay? Nobody else is cut out there. Nobody else. Okay? I don't think it clearly had gone more than 5 meters. But, but that's fine. But even in that case, to stop that and bring it back would have been, just play it in your head. Use your imagination. Just go on a little trip and play it in your head as you've blown the free hit and the ball is starting to roll. And because it hasn't rolled that far, Roger, I argue, that, it's going to be hard to be proactive about it because it really hasn't gone so far that you're thinking, in that moment, it's 2 meters away. It's now 3 meters away. I need to deal with this. It's now 4 meters away, getting to 5. Now it's too late to be proactive. Now you're being corrective. And seeing it in slow-mo makes it look really easy, like you could step in and you could deal with it. But in the moment, not really. And I would say that the umpires correctly made the assessment that they didn't need to intervene. But the position of the foul doesn't change what angles are available. Okay? We have to acknowledge the difference of the different natures of space. And that distance does not equal different angles. Distance does not equal space. It's a different concept entirely. So if we keep that straight in our heads, I think we'll do a better job of understanding when we need to intervene. Now, I mean, I don't see any situation where that ball would have gone in a different direction that it would have needed to be addressed. Just because of where the players were. There were no other defenders that were like, I don't know what the heck happened to their structure, but there was nobody else that got cut out for me. Scott, maybe you would have said to players in the past they need to be at least pretend to stop the ball. Yeah, pretend might not be the best word to use. I understand what you're getting at, though, and that you're not trying to tell them. You don't want them to start thinking that has to be stationary. Because what'll happen is players will interrupt their own flow to fulfill that requirement, or you'll have dissent coming from and appealing from players saying, that's not stationary. That's not stopped. I just say, can you just stop it enough that I know where you're taking it from? Just give me an effort. Give me the old college try. And when I get that, that's usually enough. And you're showing some empathy with that. So that's another reason I kind of like that, Scott, is because it shows an empathy that you're not trying to be super officious about it. You're saying, look, just help me out. Help me out here. But I'm not going to get in your way. So go for it like that. So I like that. I like that a lot, Scott. Okay, so that's sort of my assessment with that. Roger, I hope that the way that I explained that helped you look at it in a different way a little bit. And again, with all of these situations, you change the facts just a little bit and you could come to a very different conclusion. I was trying to look at that and see, okay, when would we not actually want that? Like what kind of different fact would change the assessment there? And you'd have to have more players who are close. You'd have to have maybe the ball isn't in the middle of the park. It's closer to the sideline and it's closer to the goal, and that changes the angles. That far away from the goal, that's center line. That's acres and acres of space. 5 meters doesn't matter very much from there. It matters far more when you get close to the circle. And now you're dealing with all of those different angles. Ask a goalkeeper and they'll tell you 5 meters can be huge around the circle. Okay? Okay? All right. Let's get to the next one. I think. Oh, I'm going to come to this. In the above scenario, the defender would have to be Yeah, I see what you're saying, Roger. Sorry. I'm trying to really, give it the due consideration that you need here, and the defender would have to be 9 meters from the original point of the foul. Yeah. I don't read it the same way, but I appreciate what you're saying. And yes, that can be a little much. And that's when you think about whether that defender, in terms of, sticking their stick down, then shouldn't be deemed to be interfering within 5 meters of the taking the free hit, because there's an outweighing there. I get that, but still we do expect defenders to be able to adjust, and they have to. They don't get to take out their spray paint like a football ref and spray on the ground precisely where they believe the fouls occurred and then back up 5 meters and say, this is where I get to tackle from. That's not what they get to do. We as umpires do have the flexibility with ball placement to be able to say, no, actually, I'm okay with it. 2 meters, 3 meters, 5 meters, sometimes even like 10 or 15 meters because nobody's around and nobody cares. Right? So there's no absolute number in mind. We have to take into account distance from the goal, what players are directly affected, who's around, that sort of thing. Paul, the defender, had to run at least 5 paces from the ball, which is 2 meters ahead from the foul position. Okay. And yeah. So they can't interfere anyway. So they don't, they would have, I think all the same things, I don't want to repeat myself, but I think all the same things still really do apply. And I just think if you imagine yourself in that situation, stepping in, blowing your whistle twice. No. If you were fast enough to be able to get in there before the sweep had actually occurred and stop it from happening, you would have been very lucky, extremely lucky, because it happened quite quickly. And then, sorry, let me just go back to the clip. So this timing here, to get in there before that, I mean, yeah, you would have been extremely lucky. And then for the extra 5 seconds, if I were a defender there, I'd be going, thank goodness for doing me that favor, umpire, because you're giving me the opportunity to get back in front and set up my defensive structure for something that I really don't deserve. The 5 meters, Roger, is from where the umpire says it is. Okay? Without being like officiously pedantic about it, it's not from a precise point. It's from where you as the umpire believe is a fair ball placement that doesn't unnecessarily interfere with the flow of the game. And if you are bringing those things back, she was still caught. She was still caught from the precise location. Okay? And you could say it's like 2 meters back from the center line and then there. So I think, yeah. Paul, the benefit from the slow-mo, if as a defender I would have been carded that, I would have been pissed off. And that's fair. That's fair for you to point out. And I think that, we've worked through that. And, I appreciate that coming to my attention in that way. Because you're probably right. From that sense. It's like, these are knife edges of decisions. But what I want you to pull out of it, is what changed? Did the angle change? Who got cut out and why? And that is actually, in this case, it's the infringing defender. And we're not there to make their defensive lives easier. They have infringed and committed a foul. Okay. Really good discussion, you guys. I really appreciated this. I like it a lot. Aline is saying that from the 5 meters, where is it actually? It's not 5 to her. I'm not sure if she means where the defender's gone or where the attacker is. Who knows? But there we are. Okay.